haven't joined us, my name is Jeff Hall, and this is the Audubon Society of Rhode Island's largest fundraiser of the year. We've had a great couple of nights, and tonight is even more special. We have some more raptor interviews, and we have a special Q&A with the master bander, Joe Zbyrowski. We also have some video of the banding process that we do each year on top of the Superman building in downtown Providence. We've got some more auction items that have come in this week, so we're going to show you a few more items. If you haven't log on to our catalog and registered to bid, please do so. The auction is tomorrow night, and we're excited. We have a lot of support, but we have a lot more items that you can take a look at. I know that this is the party for the Peregrines, but we also have two special ravens that we'd like to show you tonight, and Lauren Parmalee is going to take you inside their cage. What is nice about this fundraiser that we do each year is 2 years ago we raised the money to bring Zach to Audubon, and Lucy followed a year later. So that's how your dollars are supported through this fundraiser. It allows us to take care of these birds, maintain their cages, build new cages, and now we have a total of 13 different birds that we use as ambassadors. So let's learn about the ravens with Lauren.
Hi, welcome to Audubon. You are standing inside Lucy and Zach's cage. They are common ravens. Zach is originally from Maine. He fell out of his nest when he was just a babe, and he was living with our friend Hope Douglas and her organization Wind Over Wings in Maine for several years. And then Hope wanted to retire and had to find a home for her birds, and Zach came to live with us. He's very handsome. He has lots of vocalizations. He does an excellent great horned owl and turkey. He does a good crow. He does a variety of things. I'm not sure what they are. And his friend here is Lucy. She's just a couple years old. She came from Connecticut. And you could see in the sunlight, you could see that iridescence to their feathers. So they're all black, right? Everything about them is black. Their eyes, their beaks, their feathers. But when the sunlight catches the feather, you can see the iridescence, see a little bit of purple. You might say, well, what's the difference between a crow and a raven? Well, if you look at a lot of crows, eventually the day you see a raven, you're going to know that it's a raven, because ravens are a lot bigger. Their beak is super big. It's like having a jackknife on the front of their face. They also soar, which crows don't soar. They don't ride the thermals, warm rising air like red-tailed hawks do. Ravens will do that. Their tail is a little bit different. They say the raven tail is shaped like a wedge, whereas the crow tail is flat across. They also tend to hang out in pairs. Rather, crows, crows. They like to hang out in gangs. Especially at night, they'll roost in great big perches. But ravens tend to be bonded with their partner. They might hang out in a small family group. They will cooperate with other ravens, but in terms of like their daily existence, they tend to hang out as a family group. They're very smart. So corvids, which is what ravens and crows and blue jays belong to, are among the smartest of the birds. And when I say smart, I mean problem solving, able to use tools, can work together as a team, can actually work together with other wildlife. Out west, ravens are known to work with wolf packs to find and open food. So they're very, very smart. There's great film of them. I believe it's in, because they're found in Europe as well. I believe it's in Sweden, where ravens learned to follow the ice fishermen, and the ice fishermen would set their bait, and then the raven would come along and pull up the fishing line and eat the bait, and then move on to the next one and move on to the next one. So ravens are really, really smart, and they're also super individual birds. Like Zach and Lucy have different personalities. Oh, she was just rousing there. When they do that with their feathers, they fluff all their feathers up. That's called rousing. Lucy's a bather. She loves her bath. She takes a bath every day. Zach likes more like to be misted. Like if we're cleaning his cage with the hose, we turn it on mist, and he'll come over and spread his wings and take a little shower. He has got no tail up. Look at his tail. It's a mess. That's right now is the time of year birds start molting. So around spring, during breeding season, they start to lose their feathers because feathers wear out. Even as well as they take care of them, their feathers wear out. So every year birds molt at least once. There's some birds that molt twice, but most birds molt once. And Zach's tail feathers are just worn out. And so he's also not as good as grooming as Lucy. She looks pretty good. But yeah, so over time, they'll lose all their feathers. They don't lose them all at once because then birds wouldn't be able to fly and they wouldn't stay warm. But over time, in sort of an organized biological fashion, they molt all their feathers. You can see that they've been busy. Their cage is full of things to keep them engaged. It's sort of like a 4-year-old. You have to keep a 4-year-old busy. Lucy's favorite thing to do is pick at the pink carpeting and tear it apart and hide things under it. And we also have a variety of balls and brightly colored toys, and they have their own basket of golf balls. Golf balls we hide things in these baskets. They have their own Christmas tree. They have their own mailbox, and every morning we put snacks in that mailbox, and I say, Zach, you've got mail. Back here is an area they can get out of the rain or snow, although I'll say they often stand out in the rain. This is where they have their perch and their heating panel, and this is the area where we put their breakfast bowls in. You'll notice the bowls are clipped into a ring. That's because we learned the hard way that Zach would carry his bowl around, and when it was empty, he'd put it right by the door so we'd fill it. They're omnivores. They eat fruit and vegetables, but they love their protein best, so we feed them a variety of different meats: shrimp, fish, mice, beef, chicken. They're really well fed, and maybe their diet's even better than most humans. Here's their mailbox. You got any mail? No mail today. It's probably they took it all out. They have this nice big watering tub. This is where they take their baths. Right now it has a heater in it because it's still cold. So we got to keep it ice free. And they'll get in there and just soak themselves and then come out and stand in the sun and preen and fix all their feathers. We change out things. We have different toys and places to hide things. And we change it out so it doesn't get too boring. It's called enrichment when you try to find ways to keep animals engaged and mix things up so they don't get bored. And ravens are particularly, being smart, they're particularly in need of different enrichment challenges. We hide all kinds of things. They have a bunch of sticks in here. He started giving her things like his sword, the mighty Excalibur over here, the plastic sword. He started bringing that to her, so we decided to bring some sticks so that he could give her gifts every day. It's sort of breeding ritual. They're not going to breed. This is not the right environment for that, but it's still spring, and he likes to give her things because she's his lady. She likes to impress her. I'd really like to thank all of our donors who have helped support our birds, particularly Zach and Lucy. They cost extra with all their toys and their various foods. They're pretty expensive to keep. We love them, and we want to keep them, and we will take care of them forever, but your support is super important to maintaining their health and engaging their spirit. So thank you very much. All of us at Audubon appreciate it.
Oh, hi. I was just looking for some ravens. Hey, Lauren, those ravens eat better than I do. Hey, coming up, we're going to have Joe Zbyrowski doing a Q&A, but first we're going to go behind the scenes of what it takes to take care of our 13 raptors. They're all injured birds and unreleasable, so we take care of their food, their medicine, their veterinary care. So that's what we raise money for at this fundraiser tonight, and I hope you find this really interesting. Let's take a look.
So all the birds have their own gauntlets and their own leashes for the most part.
And that is so that we try as much best as possible not to spread germs from bird to bird. And we clean the gauntlets and the leashes each time as well. And we have our supply bags that we take with us when we go on programs, so that we have materials to clean up messes and soothe the birds if they get stressed out. So whenever we're done with a program and we return back here to the mews where the birds live, we have to make sure that their carriers are really clean. And so we use a disinfectant, a green disinfectant, to clean out each carrier and make sure that top, bottom, sides are all clean and free of not only droppings, which are called mutes, but also just to disinfect and make sure there's no bacteria. Birds can sometimes get illnesses or infections on their feet, and they can get respiratory infections, and we want to make sure that our birds stay as healthy as possible. So we always make sure we get all the nooks and crannies. And then we reset each cage so that the next time somebody's going to go out for a program, it's returning.
This is live, people.
That everything's ready to go. Okay. And then after we clean them out, we reline them again, so whoever's ready to take the bird out the next time is ready to go. Make sure we cover the spots where the bird, up near the back where the birds poop all the time. Put their leash ready for next time, and then they are ready to go. Okay, so we're just ready to prep food for tomorrow, and it happens to be quail day, which is most of the birds' favorite food. And we always weigh all their food to make sure that everybody gets just enough food, but doesn't get so much that they start to get really overweight. So we have, every bird has their specific amount of food that they get every day. And if they start to get overweight, we'll lower it a little bit, and vice versa. And so we make sure that we weigh everything. And the food that we get is actually all purchased. It used to be a few years ago that we got all of our mice donated from a laboratory, but that laboratory stopped doing donations, and it was really a very hard hit for us, for zoos and rehabilitators, because we all relied on this lab for free food. And so we all went from getting a lot of food donated free to actually having to pay for all our food. So we went from having to spend maybe $1,000 a year on quail and chicken chicks to now spending thousands and thousands of dollars a year for all the birds that we have for the mice. And so part of our Party for the Peregrine fundraiser is so that we can purchase food for these birds. And today we're prepping quail. So I need big quail and I need little quail, because every bird can eat a different size. And then we're going to weigh them. Make sure everybody gets the right amount. So that's a little over for Penny, but that's okay. And do that for Lady Hawk. Let's get a big one for Webster. And a big one for Solly. That's a nice big one. And then maybe a smaller big one. Maybe that one for Chaplin. Ooh, nice, yes. And then maybe even a smaller big one for Serena. They packed them very tightly together. That's too much. All right, I think it's going to be two small ones for Serena. Okay, no, that's three stuck together. Close. right. And so these will go into the refrigerator, and that will give them overnight to thaw out. We don't give them to them frozen. And in the morning, we will put some vitamin powder on them, and we will inject Lady Hawk has to get at least 2 pieces of food, because she gets a morning one with medication in it and an afternoon one with medication in it. And so these will be thawed and ready to go by morning, and then bon appetito. So this is our feeding room. It's also our quarantine room if we have any bird that needs to come inside temporarily for any reason. They can be housed in here, and we can swap out big perches, little perches, whatever we need. But we come up here twice a day to prep and feed the food to the birds. So I'm going to just walk you through our afternoon feeding. We do a morning feeding for the diurnal birds, and then we do an afternoon feeding for all the nocturnal birds. Plus, Lady Hawk has to also get her afternoon medicine. So basically, we fill out some logs to make sure that we track all the things that we do to the birds. The only bird getting kind of extra medicine right now is Webster, and he gets eye drops in the morning and the afternoon. So I'm just going to put my initials that I'm going to do his eye drops this afternoon. And then every bird has a page for their feed log, and so we put what food they're being fed for that day. Is it mice? Is it quail? Is it chicken chicks? And I'm just noting the time. So we're going to put down the time of day that we're feeding and how many we're going to feed. And then my initials, we filled out some of this morning. And every bird gets filled out that way. And actually Chaplain was fed this morning. So once I know what we're doing here, and then I actually have to remember what bird is getting fed what food. So I got to see, Webster's getting 3 mice, Solly's getting 2. All right, so 3 mice for Webster, and Solly is getting 2, and Penny. How many are you getting, Penny? You're getting 1 mouse. And Serena, 3 mice. And Serena is getting 2 mice. And then once we have that all filled out, we're going to grab Webster's eye drops and our food and head out to feed the birds.
Okay. Repeat after me. I am safe. It's such a hard life.
I know. It's such a hard life. Are you ready? It's almost time for supper. Okay, going over there? All right. You good? Come right back with your dinner. You good? She looks very discombobulated.
Word up.
Solly is sitting up on top of her shelter box, which she has once again shredded the material up there. We will replace their perching material, and we'll also put different items of enrichment for them. She loves to shred these pine boughs, so we give her things to chew on, to pull upon, to play with and move around. And so these are items that help her in her cage. And then when we come to feed her, we'll put her food in different areas. So I'm going to put one on her stump today, and then let's put one over here on the long perch. And sometimes we'll give her things with the food hidden inside so she can find them and have a little bit of puzzling it out to figure out how to get it. And sometimes she'll eat in front of us, but not always. What are you looking at? Sometimes I've also... Oh, you're gonna hoot? Sometimes, in order to sort of build the relationship with her, I will try to hand feed her. Sometimes she readily takes food from me, and sometimes she runs away. So we're working on that. But
She's getting better at it all the time. That's your supper. Are you gonna hoot again? I know. All right, well, we'll leave you to your supper.
So you can see there's a lot that goes into keeping these birds safe and healthy. So I want to thank you in advance for your support and making this possible for Audubon to take care of these birds. So now we're going to go and meet the man. We're going to meet Joe Zbyrowski to talk about how we band the peregrines every year on top of the Superman building.
So everybody, we're on tonight with Joe Zbyrowski, the peregrine bander of the Falcons on the Superman building in Providence. And Joe, it's great to see you.
Hi, Jeff. Nice being with you.
Hey, Joe, we're gonna, I got a short video from NPR, Rhode Island Public Radio now. No, it's not. It's the People's Radio that they came up and filmed with us a few years ago. And I'm gonna show that now, and maybe you could tell us what we're seeing while we're watching the video.
Okay.
Let me bring it up. It's all yours.
We're looking at the front of the nesting box itself, looking at it from the bottom up. And it looks like the female falcon just landed on the first approach rail. No, we've brought the chicks down from their nest box. They're taken out of the nest box, put into this basket and handed down. And then we'll be getting ready to do some banding. I'm getting some assistance here from Helen. She's holding the peregrine so I can manipulate the legs and get them in a position for banding. I'm using a measuring device to caliper the leg size so that we can put the proper size band on. And once we know what the band size is going to be, I put on two different sets of bands. One of them is a standard U.S. Fish and Wildlife aluminum lock-on band. There's identification numbers on it. That's put on one of the legs. And then the second band will be a colored, numbered, and lettered band that has a larger image so that the birds can be identified from a longer distance. It's just a larger view of the identification features.
So that doesn't hurt the birds, does it, those bands?
Oh no. The aluminum band is a lock-on band. It's crimped on with pliers. And the colored band, in the case we're using a black and green band, riveted on. And the bands are nothing more than a bracelet, an identification bracelet.
Like the Alex and Ani of peregrine bands, right?
Yeah.
So Joe, we do this every year. This is going to be a tricky one, obviously. So Joe, I got a bunch of different questions that people have sent in, and one of those was if the bands hurt. But let me go through them, and you can we can go back and forth and answer them. So this is more about you. So how long have you been banding the falcons?
The falcons are 9 years. I guess it was 94. 9 years though, I've been banding the falcons.
Wow. So you were banding with someone from Fish, Mike, I can't think of the last name.
Michael Amaral initially started banding in the year 2000. And when he retired, I started doing the banding.
And so do you have to get a license for that?
Oh yeah, I've been banding since 1964.
You don't look old enough to be bound, then 1964.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, I was banding before 64, but I got my own banding license, my master banding license in 1964. And I do remember the very first bird that I banded too. It was a red-tailed hawk at Peckham Farm at URI.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Okay. Why is the box on top of the Superman building? What made me pick the Superman building to put that nesting box?
Well, oh boy, when I was researching where to put a box, I looked at, I think, 5 different buildings in Providence and narrowed it down to 2. The Textron building and the Superman building. At the time, it was the Fleet Bank building. And the bank building, Superman building, met the criteria best suited for peregrine falcon nesting.
So I think that the Falcons are the only tenants of the Superman building. So it's like a private building for them right now.
Yeah.
And let's hope they keep the building up. What happens if we have to move the box? Where would the next best building be?
Well, again, when I did the evaluations, the Textron building was the other one that I had considered. Other than that, I'd probably have to do some more research. There've been more buildings put up since this box was put up.
Great. So I got a question here. What the box is made of? It seems like it has to withstand a lot of weather.
Well, let me tell you what the previous box was made of. Previously, I built the next box to certain specifications, and it was made out of marine, 3/4-inch marine plywood. That lasted for quite a few years, and that needed some care, repainting and so forth. Now, when that box was about to have to be replaced, we found that there was a student at RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, who, as a school project for credit, was going to build a box. And she ended up using a Brazilian hardwood for material to do the box. And we have no idea how long that's going to last, but it looks as good now as it did the day we put it up.
It sure does. I mean, I remember last year or 2 years ago when we were trying to put that screw into it, and it was almost impossible to drill it with wood.
No, power drill couldn't put the drill into it.
So how many falcons have we banded at this box?
57.
57. So did those birds are those birds now staying in Rhode Island, or do they migrate off to other states? Do you know?
No, once they fledge, they're around for about 30 days. No, they're around for more than that. They're up for a month or so, and then they disperse. And once they disperse, they're technically not allowed back. So they're treated as intruders if they try to come back. So they just disperse to other areas and look for mates and nesting sites.
So do the parents come back to that box every year?
The parents are permanent residents. These parents are permanent residents. Yeah. As long as the consideration is food, shelter, and a nesting spot. If they've got those 3 things, then they'll stay.
Do they migrate, or do they stay in the state all year?
Yeah. The parents stay here year round, and the young will disperse, as I said. And if there's any migration at all, it's for any of the East Coast birds, it's between 300 and 500 miles. So they don't go very far. Now, as opposed to a bird that might be living in the tundra in Canada, those birds will go all the way down to Argentina.
Wow. I wonder if they get quarantined when they get to Argentina when they get there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So do we think that the birds that are nesting, I know that there's some nests under the bridges over at the Pawtucket City Hall.
Yeah.
Are they from this nest or are they from other nests?
They're from the ones at Pawtucket City Hall. At least one of them is from Boston. Of course, they have to be banded in order to know where they came from. You
Sure.
have to be able to identify the bird. So I don't know of any other locals, ones that we banded.
Sure. One of the questions is, what do the color bands, I know you mentioned in the video, but what are the banding colors? What's the significance?
Yeah, this is a string of bands, and these are the colored bands. These are the black over green. They're numbered and lettered. The one I'm holding is 57 over BV, black over green. And these bands are riveted on, and the purpose of these bands is not only for just identification, but they can be seen from a distance. So if you've got a good spotting scope, you can identify the bird by seeing this band, whereas the other aluminum band, the lock-on band, has a very small number and address on it.
Oh, yeah.
So if you got the bird in hand, you can identify. But you need the colored band with the larger images to see it from a distance.
So is green over black your colors, or is that the Providence colors?
No, actually, these bands came from a source in Massachusetts.
Okay.
They are different. In fact, the original Peregrine that was in Providence was banded black over green, black over red, and that was a Boston bird. But different banders get different colors. So.
Okay, and so it's the black over green or green over black, or however, where the black the color is. Huh, that's interesting. Let's go back to our questions. I think we asked this in the thing. Did the band? So when you put the banding on, and when you're there, and the birds are screeching, and if you hear that in the video, I'm not sure if the volume was up or not, but the birds are screeching, and I know part of it is the mother who's calling out all the time. But these birds don't hurt. These bands don't hurt the birds.
Oh no. Again, the bands are fitted to the bird. So I have this measuring device, and you put this on the leg, and there's an indicator here which tells me which size band to use. So the females will get a little larger band than the male, and there are two different sizes that I use for banding. This particular band is a number 7A, and that is a larger of the two. The males would take a band number 6. So the band is, again, fitted to the leg. So it's just like fitting a bracelet on yourself. You can gauge and tell what size you need.
Right, but when I eat my, normal group of Oreos and my arm gets bigger, how does the band expand? Does the leg expand?
We band the birds around 19 days of age, and that is about as large as the leg is going to get. The legs don't get any bigger. The heads don't get any bigger, basically. But no, once you size it, that's going to be a perfect fit.
And I know when we go up to the building to band, we have to do it within a certain time frame. And I guess the legs, so the maturity of the legs are there. But why else do we have a certain window to go up and band? Like you always say, we have to band 21 days after they hatch.
Oh yeah. Well, again, because the bird is at a good size for the leg, the leg is not going to get any bigger than it is. And the birds themselves Um, if they were younger, then the leg size wouldn't be right. If they were older, the leg size would be okay, but the birds would be more aggressive. So we can handle the birds at this age, 19, 20, 21 days, without being taloned or otherwise harming the birds, I guess. But they're just more docile at this time, and you can handle them very easily.
Well, that's another question. Have you ever been hit by any of the, or attacked by the peregrines when we're banding?
I've been struck by the peregrines, and I wasn't being attacked. I was being defended against. So they're defending the nest site, and it's one of the things that happens when you're banding raptors.
Well, people should know, if they ever seen it on the film when we put it on our website, is I am the person holding the broom behind your head to ward off those attacks. And on the back of your jacket, I don't know if anyone's seen the picture, there's a silhouette of one of the birds, or where you've been struck in the back with a hole.
Right.
So
yeah, I have 2 or 3 tears in my jacket. I guess the biggest one is about 3 inches. But the birds will come down and they just graze, you know, they seem to hit the same area, my right shoulder. but nonetheless, yeah, I've been struck 3 or 4 times.
So thankfully you have a thick coat on if it's a 3-inch rip.
Yeah, well, the danger is in the head area, so I'm wearing a helmet, which is very protective.
Right. What, I know you said you have banded redtail, your first bird was a redtail, but what other birds, are you just banding raptors, and what other raptors are you banding?
Right now I'm just banding raptors and owls. So, I banded, I think, just about, well, maybe a couple of raptors I know I haven't banded, the northern harrier and goshawk. I think all the other local ones I have banded. So Cooper's hawk, Shropshire hawk, broadwing hawk, kestrel, merlin. I've banded all of those. And then owls. I had a project going for rehabilitating barn owls, and I banded 70 barn owls in the state of Rhode Island. But I've also banded great horned owls, screech owls, saw-whet owls, one short-eared owl. Yeah.
I'm going to call you the, the hawk and owl guy, not the falcon guy. I mean, that's a lot of different kind of birds. Here's our last question, because we have to wrap this thing up. But so when people are watching the camera, they'll see a bird bring in food or ripping something apart to feed the chicks. Yeah. And so what are they bringing up there to feed, and what do they do with the leftovers?
Okay. Well, the feeding is in stages. When the chicks are young, the adults will bring in smaller birds. As they mature, they'll bring in larger birds. So they could bring in a warbler, for example, of a small bird, and then a pigeon as an example of a larger bird. Once they have fed the bird, the chicks, if there's anything left, then they will cache that. They'll store it for a time when they're not catching prey.
In the nest?
No. In fact, I was on the building one day when a peregrine took a cached bird and cached it at City Hall.
I will keep my City Hall jokes to zero, because I'm not sure if the mayor is listening. I know that flickers seem to be a popular diet, because I know when we're up there, I always see flicker feathers, but the color is great on them, but not great for surviving a peregrine attack. How do they get these birds?
Well, first of all, a medium-sized bird is the standard size, and in fact, an adult peregrine will require one one bird about flicker size daily. And I've lost track of your question.
Oh. So what? How are they catching these birds? How do they kill them?
Well, first of all, they got to find the bird. So they have a special eyesight which allows them to hunt at a distance, and special eye adaptations for hunting in flight. We have one set of cells called fovea. The peregrines and other hawks have two sets, one for long distance binocular vision, and the other for hunting on the fly. So they can grasp a bird and actually talon it to death. They can punch a bird, knock it to the ground, and then retrieve it. And they can also decapitate a bird. They use a back talon to do that. And going at the speeds they're going at, all of that punching, for example, is very detrimental.
To the prey, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Hey, thanks very much for jumping on this. I know what a crazy time it is and we have to do this remotely, but I am so glad that we had a chance to talk about the peregrines. People just love watching this webcam. And I know we're going to try to go banding next week, and maybe we can and maybe we can't. But either way, I'm going to be in touch with you. So thank you again. Thanks, Helen, your sidekick there, a bander and computer person, to help us get connected. So
Okay, Jeff.
you have a great night.
Thank
Okay.
you, Jeff. Lots of fun. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that's that for this evening. I hope you learned a lot about peregrine falcons tonight. Tomorrow is the big night, though. Our auctions are all closing. If you haven't had a chance to bid yet, please do so. Please sign up. Please spread the word. We have great gifts and items to auction off, and we need as much support as possible. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.